Let me bring in BJP leader and columnist Swapan Dasgupta now. Swapan Dasgupta, thank you so much. How do you see the recent developments in Bangladesh with Sheikh Hasina's exit and formation of the interim government? And also, the fact is that she is in India right now.
Well, it's still a very fragile dispensation in Bangladesh. They managed to cobble together an interim administrative regime, which is made up mainly of completely non-political elements, people who are either from academia, some from the NGO sector, and some from some students, which have no experience with actually handling day-to-day political affairs. So that's always a risk. On top of that, the political parties have very consciously stayed away from this interim arrangement. The BNP, the Jamaat, and a couple of the smaller parties, they've stayed away. And the BNP has made a demand that they want elections within 3 months. Now, that is a potential source of friction. That's number one in terms of the arrangement. The second issue, which I think is really of great concern to everybody, is the complete administrative void, the vacuum which now exists and which is translated into a spate of lawlessness in Bangladesh, particularly attacks on minorities, particularly attacks on Hindus. According to the latest figures which the Hindu Buddhist Council has given, in the past 4 days, there have been more than 200 incidents of attacks on the minorities. Now, that's a very, very large figure. And on top of that, some of these people who are at the helm of affairs, including Mr. Muhammad Yunus, who's the head of the interim arrangement, they seem to think that this is a conspiracy. In other words, there's a policy of denial. So there are points of concern at present, but of course, some of that concern is inevitable, given that Bangladesh has just been through such a huge, tumultuous sort of insurrection.
In this fragile time, that's your phrase, which we are witnessing in our neighborhood, do you think it puts India in a precarious position or perhaps challenging times for us as well, especially the two countries share over 4,000 kilometer long border, and in certain places it's porous border?
Yeah, well, it's more than precarious. I think challenging is really the operative word. It is a challenging time. We have a very large land border with Bangladesh. But what is complicated matters is that there is a large section of the people who were involved in the anti-Hasina agitation who believe that everything that was done by the Awami League administration over the past 15 years, particularly all the missteps which it took, the extent of corruption, sometimes arbitrariness, sometimes some steps which really can't be called very democratic, all of these were the handiwork of India. Now, that's a very facile and simplistic explanation. India was friendly with Bangladesh. India was certainly very friendly with Sheikh Hasina. But to suggest that everything she did, she was a complete puppet of India, is of course carrying things a bit too far. But nevertheless, this perception is very much there in Bangladesh. And that has soured the environment to a very, very large extent. And I believe it is one of the factors which is responsible for this incessant attacks on the Hindus, on the minority community in Bangladesh, them being seen as sort of agents of India. Now, obviously, India has a lot of interest in Bangladesh. There's economic interest, there's political interest, there are concerns over what will happen if the the security policy pursued by Sheikh Hasina, which enabled us to return to peace in the northeast of the country, that somehow is sort of subverted. So there are these issues, and for them, I'm sure that they will be. We will have to have a series of engagements with the people at the helm in Bangladesh, and sensitize them to our concerns, because I'm sure that they are not aware of the entire complexities of India-Bangladesh relations, which the earlier administration was. But there are complicating factors.